This day in sports history. It's June 12th, and since the U.S. Open gets underway today at Oakmont, let's go back in time for two stories of what happened on this day at the U.S. Open. On this day in 1939, Byron Nelson won his first and only U.S. Open and used a little bit of magic to do it. But to understand how he got there, we've got to dial the clock back a few more days to Saturday the 10th. Now, at this point, in deference to the Sabbath and to give the guys who also at this point were all traveling tournament to tournament by car, the tournaments did everything that they could to finish up on Saturday, which meant opening round on Thursday, second round on Friday, and then a morning and an afternoon round on Saturday. The Open was held at the Philadelphia Country Club that year, and when Nelson teed off in the final round, he was 5 shots behind leader Johnny Bulla. Nelson knew he needed to be aggressive and make putts, and he did. He shot the best round of the afternoon with a 1 under 68. Bulla, the third-round leader, could not equal his morning magic when he'd also shot a 68 and instead carded a 76 in the afternoon, finishing 3 shots off the pace. Craig Wood rolled in a birdie putt at 18 to equal Nelson's 4 rounds total, but there were still a couple of guys on course who had a chance to win it. Denny Shute just needed a par-par finish to take the lead, but a bogey at 17 and then a par at the final hole dropped him into a 3-way tie. Sam Snead was the last man on the course with a chance to win it. When he came to the par 5 finishing hole on Saturday afternoon, Snead only needed a par. But in the absence of big scoreboards, Snead thought he needed a birdie 4 to win, and so he got a little too aggressive, finding not 1 but 2 bunkers along the way, and had to pencil in a Snowman 8, missing the playoff by 2 shots. So on Sunday, Nelson, Wood, and Shute came back out to play an 18-hole playoff. Shute never really could get it going on the day, and by the back 9 was kind of just along for the ride. The final 3 holes were packed with drama, though, between Nelson and Wood. Nelson took a 1-stroke lead at the 16th with a birdie, but gave it back with a bogey at 17. Wood birdied 17 to take a 1-shot lead of his own, coming to the 18th. After both men hit drives to the center of the fairway, Wood pulled a 3-wood out of the bag, but he hooked his approach into the gallery surrounding the green, and his ball struck a spectator in the head, knocking the man unconscious. It took several minutes for medics to arrive and take the man to the hospital. Now, Wood was shaken up by that event, but he calmed his nerves just enough to pitch to within 6 feet for a chance at birdie. Nelson also had a birdie putt from about 10 feet away. As Mark Frost wrote in his book titled The Match, just before Nelson struck his putt, he had a memory jump to the front of his mind. 12 years before, Nelson had a similar putt to beat Ben Hogan in the Christmas Caddy Tournament at Glen Garden Country Club in Fort Worth, Texas. He remembered how comfortable he'd felt over that putt and how easily it had rolled right into the cup. And that brought a little smile to his face and some confidence, and he rolled in that 10-footer for birdie on the 18th to get to 1 under. But Wood still had a birdie putt of his own from 4 feet closer, but the nerves of hitting a patron in the head with his golf ball and the pressure of the moment caught up with him, and the putt came up a little bit short. He tapped in for par, meaning Nelson and Wood would have to come back on Monday for another 18-hole playoff. And that brings us to what happened on this day in 1939. After making birdie at the 3rd hole, Nelson had a 3-shot lead. But it was what he did on the 4th hole that left people talking about this kid Nelson. After a drive to the middle of the fairway, Nelson still had 200 yards to the pin on this par 4. He pulled a 1-iron out of his bag and took dead aim. He couldn't have hit it any purer or any better. The ball sailed on line towards the stick, hit the green, hopped a couple of times, and rolled into the cup for eagle. There are many golf historians who call Nelson's shot the single greatest golf shot in U.S. Open history. His eagle gave him a commanding 5-shot lead over Wood. He gave a couple of shots back, but even 2 late birdies by Wood only narrowed Nelson's margin of victory in the playoff to 3 shots. It was Nelson's second major tournament win of the 5 he would win in his compact career. On this day in 2003, it was an inspirational day for a lot of people who tuned in to watch the U.S. Open. It was the first round at Olympia Fields, and 53-year-old Tom Watson was not listed as one of the contenders to win the tournament, but he wound up having the best round of the day, and that was due in part to his caddy. Now, the relationship between golfer and caddy is crucial. Get the wrong advice, the club choice, distance read, or if there's something personal going on between that team, it can have an adverse effect. Well, the other end of the spectrum with looper and pro working in close tandem can produce magical results. Watson's caddy of 30 years, Bruce Edwards, had been diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease 5 months earlier, but he was on the bag on this day. He looked frail and weak, but he was determined to carry the bag the distance. Watson shot a 65, which included an eagle that he holed out from 171 yards, and trained a 45-foot bomb for a birdie that lingered dramatically on the lip before dropping.
I wonder how many years he went consecutively without ever leaving a putt short. He was about as bold a putter as you'd ever want to watch. Look, he's
got
there.
A chance! One more tilt.
Oh, it can't stop there. Gravity has got to... Hey, there you go.
How about that?
The crowd, aware of Edwards' situation, chanted Bruce all the way around the course. It was a magical day for both golfer and caddy. Watson's 65 tied him for the lead after the first round. He was the oldest to ever hold the lead at the U.S. Open. Edwards said after the round, "We turned back the clock today. It was wonderful. It was a blast. Not bad for old folks, huh?" Watson shot 72 the next day, followed that up with 75 on Saturday and another 72 on Sunday to finish 28th. Bruce Edwards died less than a year later at the age of 49. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, cologne, and many more personal care products in a large variety of scents, you're sure to find something that's perfect for you or that special someone in your life. Check them out at sterlingsoap.com. On this day in 1970, Dock Ellis pitched a no-hitter under the influence of acid. Maybe. Ellis's Pittsburgh Pirates were in San Diego on this day, and this was game 1 of a doubleheader. The Pirates were on the West Coast swing and had just wrapped up a 2-game series with San Francisco. The 11th had been an off day, and Ellis asked manager Danny Murtaugh for permission to take the day off to go see some friends in Los Angeles. Murtaugh said, "Yeah, go ahead." Ellis said before he got on the plane to LA, he dropped acid, took the flight, and was able to navigate to his friend's house. Well, Ellis lost track of time. After waking up on the morning of the 12th, Ellis thought it was still the 11th, and he dropped more acid. His friend's girlfriend told him he needed to get moving. He had to pitch in a few hours, didn't he? He had a plane to catch, and then he had to drive to the ballpark. He was a bit confused. He was sure it was the 11th. When she was finally able to convince him that it was the 12th, he got moving. He showed up to San Diego's Jack Murphy Stadium about 90 minutes before the first pitch. Ellis then claims he found his drug supplier at the ballpark.
There was a lady down there in San Diego who used to always have the bennies for me, Benzagreen, which is another stimulant. I went out to the dugout and reached up because she was standing over the rail. She always stood over the rail and had a pretty little gold pouch. So I got the bennies, went on back in the clubhouse, took them. The game started and the mist started, misty rain. So all during the game was a little mist. The opposing team and my teammates, they knew I was high, but they didn't know what I was high on. But they had no idea what LSD was other than what they see on TV with the hippies. I didn't see the hitters. All I could tell was if they was on the right side or the left side. The catcher put tape on his fingers so I could see the signals.
He also said that at one point he believed President Richard Nixon was the home plate umpire. At another point, he thought guitarist Jimi Hendrix was at the plate swinging his guitar instead of a bat. There were a few times he thought the ball coming back to him from the catcher was as big as a basketball. Other times, he thought it was only as big as a golf ball. One ball that was hit back towards the mound, he dove out of the way of, only for it to actually be a slow roller that the third baseman handled for the out. but no matter who was at the plate, which side they were swinging from, or whether a president was calling balls and strikes, he was unhittable on this day. He did issue 8 walks and he hit a batter, but no Padre reached base by getting ahead. He struck out 6, including the final batter of the game to secure the 2-0 win and his first and only no-hitter of his career. Now, this is a story that is part of baseball lore, but there are some who question the veracity of this story. All the details of this day come from Ellis. What motivation does he have to lie? None that I can really figure that would benefit him. Major League Baseball hasn't released much footage of the game. What I've found is about 40 seconds long and includes a play where he covered the bag on a ground ball to first that he handled with grace. Here's Doc talking about that play.
One time I covered first base, and I caught the ball, and I tagged the base all in one motion. I said, I just made a touchdown.
So, whether it's true or not, I'm not sure it really matters. It's been woven into the fabric of baseball for 55 years now, and there really is not a way to prove definitively one way or another. It's a fun story to relive in Doc's own words, and sadly, he can't talk about his LSD game anymore. He died in 2008 at the age of 63. On this day in 1986, weather played a huge role in a wacky play in Toronto. The Detroit Tigers were in town against the Blue Jays, and at this point in their history, the Blue Jays played in Exhibition Stadium, which was not too far from Lake Ontario. That made it susceptible to cold temps, high winds, and apparently heavy, dense fog. In the 7th inning with 2 men on, Kelly Gruber hit a fly ball into center field. Under normal weather conditions, it's a can of corn fly ball, easy out, no problem. But fog had rolled into the stadium, and it was really dense in the outfield. Tigers center fielder Pat Sheridan knew it was somewhere in his general vicinity, but he couldn't see it. It was lost in the fog. The ball rolled nearly to the warning track before Sheridan could track it down, but by that point, Gruber was rounding third and heading for home. It was a 3-run in-the-park home run. The game was delayed after that play, and after a 30-minute wait was called on account of fog. The play didn't have much of an effect on the outcome. The Jays beat the Tigers 9-0. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. Around the year 1478, Leonardo da Vinci drew up a concept plan for a self-propelled cart. His diagram used a complex system of springs and a crude form of a differential joint. Now, he never attempted to build it, and those who saw the drawings around that time did not think it would ever work. However, a group of Da Vinci enthusiasts used the drawings to build one in 2004, and it worked. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.